And at the end of the day, do you believe Donald Trump, who always tells the truth? Just kidding. Or do you believe that woman on that tape?
No, Donald Trump has picked J.D. Vance to be his running mate. So in this video, I'm going to discuss what I think you should know about J.D. Vance. And my focus, even though I will discuss a bit of this, is not going to be on J.D. Vance's past comments about Trump, even though those are fun to see. And I'm going to play some of that in a second here. I don't think this is going to hurt Trump in any way. People are, first of all, already aware of this. When Vance was running for Senate, this was brought up quite a bit during even Fox News appearances. All this does for the Trump campaign is sort of give them this reason to say, hey, look, this guy used to hate Trump. Look at his past comments about Trump. But now he's realized Trump is actually amazing. Once he saw Trump as president, then he saw what a great job Donald Trump did. So if you don't like Trump, maybe all you have to do is be more aware of how great Trump is, and then you'll love him. This is really more of an asset for the campaign, if anything. It doesn't hurt them. So people, whether it's media or whoever making this the focus, oh, look at what J.D. Vance said about Trump. All that tells me, I think it's pretty clear that Vance sold out for power and for power, he had money already. But for power, for other people, they may just see that as, oh, he just learned and saw how great Trump was and changed his mind. So let's not make that the focus. But I want to start with the most ridiculous thing that I could possibly start with. And that is when Donald Trump forgot J.D. Vance's name when J.D. Vance was running for Senate. This was great.
That's what they're waiting for. They're waiting for one race. We've endorsed Dr. Oz. We've endorsed JP, right? J.D. Mandel, and he's doing great. They're all doing good.
J.D. Mandel. Okay. So again, this means nothing. I just thought that was funny. But all right, here's a bit of the comments. This comment is newer, apparently. So this recently came out. So I will share this before I share some other ones later on. But some audio from 2016.
And I cannot stand Trump because I think he's a fraud. Well, I think he's a total fraud that is exploiting these people, who is a total fraud.
I agree with you on Trump because I don't think that he's the person. I don't think he actually cares about folks.
But I think that I'm going to vote third party because I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place.
All right, I said newer, but this was 2021. So again, showing you how old these criticisms are, and clearly they didn't hurt J.D. Vance when he ran for Senate. They're not going to hurt him now. What you should be more aware of is the fact that he is just a fraud. This is a guy that speaks a working class message, and he's an Ivy League venture capitalist. So we'll get deeper into some of his policies or how he has impacted policies that he has pretended, again, when pushing forward a certain message. But by the way, this piece in Current Affairs, Nathan J. Robinson does a great write-up here about right-wing elitism versus liberal elitism. And just the fact that, again, two total frauds here. Trump, real estate developer, Ivy educated. These guys talk so much shit about, Ivy League schools and the liberal elites. These two are liberal elites. The top of the ticket. The only difference is they are also fascists. So J.D. Vance on his website, very clear, end abortion. He wants to completely eliminate abortion at the federal level. This is a guy who became, he converted to Catholicism in his mid-30s. I'm not sure if he's actually a believer or if he realized, hey, if I want to be more successful in Republican Party politics, I have to convert and pretend I care about these issues. But regardless, this is a guy who is chasing power and is very strictly anti-abortion to the point where he wants police to track people who have abortions. So The Lever has a great piece here. They do fantastic investigative work on all politicians, regardless of party. Writing here, Trump's vice presidential pick pressured regulators to let police access the records of people who cross state lines for abortions. Going on to write, as I said, he pressured regulators last June to kill a privacy rule that prevents police from accessing the medical records of people seeking reproductive services. The rule was designed to prevent state and local police in anti-abortion states from using private records to hunt down and prosecute people who cross state lines in search of abortion services. So meaning, even if you leave your state, you are not safe. And that's, again, under how the system currently operates. Under a presidency with Trump-Vance, their plan is to make it completely illegal. So, as they write, if the Trump-Vance ticket wins this year, the new administration could rescind the rule protecting abortion records from police investigation. Project 2025, which I'm sure most of you are aware of by now, the right-wing manifesto to reshape the government, if Trump is elected, proposes sweeping new surveillance of people seeking abortions. Growing the surveillance state to essentially include your bedroom and what you decide to do when it comes to medical procedures, and getting the police on your ass over this. And I mean, you could just see how extreme he is on a lot of this stuff with these comments here.
And this is one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace, which is this idea that, like, well, okay, these marriages were fundamentally, they were maybe even violent, but certainly they were unhappy. And so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term. And maybe it worked out for the moms and dads, though I'm skeptical, but it really didn't work out for the kids of those marriages. And I think that's what all of us.
Any politician who actually cares about people and understands society would see a problem like this and think, you know what, we should do more to address the social safety net so that when marriages do break up, the kids aren't as impacted. Maybe there's universal pre-K. We should address the cost of housing, the cost of food. There are a variety of ways to properly address an issue like this, as opposed to trying to make it harder for people to get a divorce. Which I'm not sure, kids staying in violent marriages, I also don't think is great for them. So if there are any issues, and I'm sure there are things that can impact children during a divorce, there are ways that society can help to address that, as opposed to forcing these people to stay in that marriage. It's just, this is an insanely extreme worldview that would have been, these comments alone would have made J.D. Vance unelectable, 10 years ago. But there has been such this extreme shift to the right, both economically, with the power of corporations, and culturally, that a clip like this is just, it's forgotten about. You see it one day and it goes away because it's just normalized now to see this kind of garbage. This is worth mentioning as well. This was brought up during his Senate debate.
You know what I haven't done? I didn't start a fake nonprofit pretending like I was going to help people with addiction like J.D. Vance did. Literally started a nonprofit and didn't spend one nickel on anybody. In fact, he brought in somebody from Purdue Pharma to be the spokesperson for the nonprofit. The same drug company, Big Pharma, the big drug company that had all the pill mills going, got everybody addicted. 1 million people died, J.D. 1 million people died, and you started a nonprofit to try to take advantage of people in Ohio, and you know what? All you did with it was launch your political career. His campaign manager worked for that nonprofit. He ran a poll to check his own standing from that nonprofit. I'm not going to take a backseat to you or anybody else on fentanyl, drugs, or immigration or anything else.
This goes to how fake J.D. Vance is. This is completely true. So our Ohio Renewal, which was his nonprofit, raised less than $250,000 and appears to have made zero real-world impact. The nonprofit did, however, hire a doctor and American Enterprise Institute fellow with well-known ties to Purdue Pharmaceuticals. J.D. Vance, one of these fake populists, I hate Big Pharma, hires one of his buddies from Purdue Pharma to run this nonprofit, which ended up just spending money to both pay that guy and also do a poll to see if J.D. Vance was electable. Just a complete con artist, which, this is the stuff. These sorts of things should be the focus here of any criticism of J.D. Vance. Like, again, the comments about Trump, I'm going to get to them later. They're funny to watch, which is why there's been a focus on that. But they're not going to move the needle. Great piece from the Lever here as well. J.D. Vance helped lobbyists weaken his rail safety bill. So this goes to, again, this fake working class message. Oh, I care so much about these residents that were impacted by this tanker that derailed. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to have the Railway Safety Act. And then in the process, as the bill's co-sponsor, he quietly amended his own legislation to delay the tank car change by years at the request of rail supplier and chemical industry lobbyists. According to the lobbyist Senate testimony, manufacturers would have been unable to comply with the faster timeline, even though one of the lobbying group's members has previously said manufacturers could build and retrofit tank cars on this production schedule. So why were they opposing it? For members of the American Chemistry Council, including major corporations like 3M, Dow, and DuPont, upgrading to the newer and heftier tank cars could mean higher shipping costs. They don't want to have to foot the bill so quickly as a way to impact their bottom line. They claim the reason is if the timelines are accelerated too quickly, it will cause a shortage of cars needed to move other critical materials, which even if that was true, I would argue the safety of people are more important than moving your critical materials. But regardless, that isn't even true because one of the country's largest tank car manufacturers, Greenbrier Companies, disputed the trade group's claim that the timeline was too fast and argued that the industry could make 40,000 new cars annually and retrofit 13,000 more. But these companies don't want to have to pay this so quickly. They rather have this phased in, do it over a few years, and be able to have the costs, evened out over those years, again, as a way to not impact their upcoming, quarter. This is, again, goes to how corporations co-opt the industry by grabbing people like J.D. Vance and just essentially forcing them to do what they want as opposed to what is best for people. Now, this is a very long piece, and it's a great piece, but I was getting super depressed while reading it. But I'm going to link to this below in case you want to read through the whole thing. I'm just going to pull out a quote here. But inside the new right, this is from a couple years ago, but inside the new right where Peter Thiel is placing his biggest bets. So Peter Thiel and Curtis Yarvin, these are two incredibly influential individuals in J.D. Vance's life. Peter Thiel being a billionaire, a massive funder of Republicans, a close friend of J.D. Vance, and Curtis Yarvin being this sort of thought leader in what is being described as the new right. So let me just pull out a piece here again. This is a long breakdown of this entire ideology. But this is a quote from J.D. Vance. I think Trump is going to run again in 2024. I think that what Trump should do, if I was giving him one piece of advice, fire every single mid-level bureaucrat, every civil servant in the administrative state, replace them with our people. This also goes to what Project 2025 has said since this was published. And when the courts stop you, stand before the country and say, he quoted Andrew Jackson giving him a challenge to the entire constitutional order, quote, the Chief Justice has made his ruling. Now let him enforce it. This is a description essentially of a coup. We are in a late Republican period, Vance said later, evoking the common new right view of America as Rome awaiting its Caesar. If we're going to push back against it, we're going to have to get pretty wild and pretty far out there and going in directions that a lot of conservatives right now are uncomfortable with. Part of this view from the new right is that they want what they're describing as a Caesar, but they want a dictator. It's openly discussed. It's very clear based on what Vance is saying here, based on what, again, this thought leader, Curtis Yarvin, is advocating for, that they essentially want a ruler. And to have the vice president, or I should say the running mate, let's hope not vice president yet, but Trump's running mate, be this man who is a believer in this ideology is chilling. And again, this is something that I think should get more of a focus as we all move closer to the election. Now, I just want to play a couple of clips from the media and their reaction to the J.D. Vance pick.
Some of the quotes from J.D. Vance on the election, just on that point, John King, he baselessly said, I think the election was stolen from Trump. He falsely said there were certainly people voting illegally on a large-scale basis. These are things that both Trump's White House counsel, Trump's attorney general, court after court, election board after election board, governor after governor said are not true. And it is also worth noting that the very reason that Mike Pence is not only not his running mate, but not here at the Republican convention and not necessarily even voting for Trump is because of what happened on January 6th and the fact that Donald Trump, in his view, in Pence's view, helped put his life and the life of his family in danger during the January 6th insurrection. Now that Donald Trump is officially a three-time Republican presidential nominee, we expect his newly announced running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, to be nominated soon.
I almost forgot about Mike Pence. Like the fact that he isn't the running mate. Because of everything that happened. Because of the attempted coup. The threats on Mike Pence. Like, you know, I want to criticize others for having voters for having a bad memory about this stuff, but like the main focus here, at least one of the many main focuses, is just that J.D. Vance supported the coup. Donald Trump tried to steal an election. He's still denying that he lost the election. How can anybody in their right mind possibly want this man to attain power again? You know, this is not something that people should look back on and be like, oh, no one knew this was coming. There were no warning signs. No, all of the warning signs have been in front of you forever. It's all there. It's becoming increasingly clear, if it wasn't clear already, how dangerous Donald Trump is. But like Mike Pence, by the way, he's an extreme right-wing Republican, and even he cannot bring himself to support Trump because of what happened. Now, it's largely likely because it personally impacted him, like so many idiots out there. They don't understand any issue until they're personally impacted. But regardless, he doesn't support him, and that's worth noting. Here is the at least one of the Fox News reactions. This is from Britt Hume.
Some people may look at this and remember what J.D. Vance used to say about Donald Trump. And he was a hardcore never-Trumper not very many years ago. And he reversed himself completely not that long ago. And, you know, one of the things you worry about is when somebody's making a pick for a potential president if something happens to him, then you think, well, is this person, how did he get the job? Did he get it because he was really the best qualified to be president, or did he get it because he sucked up effectively to the nominee? People will have questions about that.
He got it because, for one thing, he sucked up to the nominee, obviously. And the other is J.D. Vance's connection to money. And his connection just generally to this new right wing that J.D. Vance is a representative of. Last thing here, I'll link to this below. This is, all the ridiculous things Vance has said about, not ridiculous, but accurate things at the time that Vance has said about Trump. I'll show you an example.
There's a movement to sort of gloat over the fact that the elites were right about Donald Trump, right? I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. And I've noticed this willingness from people who think a lot like I do that, look, we told you so. To all these white working class voters, we told you so. We told you that Trump was going to be a terrible candidate. We told you that you were an idiot if you voted for him. The problem is, if you take that attitude of sort of gloating over Trump's defeat, then you're playing into the very thing that gave rise to Trump in the first place, which is a feeling that the elites think that they're smarter than you and just think you're a bunch of idiots.
It is, I wouldn't even say that's inaccurate. Again, this is back in 2016, so he's a never Trumper back then. But there is something to be said about the gloating. At the same time, it's hard to imagine any reaction would have really changed the minds of people who have just fallen completely into this cult, whether it's sympathy or gloating. Another example.
What do you think of this? This is
when he was on MSNBC with Chris Matthews. Just ridiculous.
And back, it's sort of interesting, evocative at the time, because we used to say stewardess, first of all, now we say flight attendant, but just it gives you that sense of history. But this woman is not a show-off. She's just telling what happened so we can know it.
Yeah, and it's sort of, it makes you think that at a fundamental level, this is sort of a he said, she said, right? And at the end of the day, do you believe Donald Trump, who always tells the truth? Just kidding. Or do you believe that woman on that tape?
No, denial is normal.
And
A guy who knew Trump lied all the time. He knows this now. So, look, I'm playing this not because this, I think, is going to hurt J.D. Vance or Trump. It doesn't. We know that already. But it's just amazing to see how far somebody will go for power. Just like he is fully aware of how much of a fraud Donald Trump is. And since then, he has kissed his ass over and over and over again because he saw it as a way to get into a position or get into the position that he's in now. It's disgusting. And again, the focus should not be on that, but it's worth just reminding ourselves how terrible people can be when they are so focused on attaining power.